Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the poker vlog. It is Wednesday, August the 23rd. It's about 6 o'clock in the evening, and you know where we're at. Come on, you guys know where we're at. That's right, we're back at Resorts World. We're going to jump into the 1-3 streets, see if we can't run it up, see if we can't have a good winning session today. I'm on the list right now. It looks like there's about 8 or 9 people on the list, so I might have to wait a little bit before we get a seat. But hopefully it won't be too long of a wait before we can jump into the game, and hopefully we get a good run of cards. That's always a good thing. So I'm going to run in, I'm going to grab a quick caffeinated beverage, and then I'm going to hopefully get a seat, and we're going to sit down and start playing some poker. I will see all of you at the table. Sit down, and the second hand we are dealt in is pocket kings in the cutoff. We're going to be raising this up. There's a limp in front of us in the hijack, so we raise it up to 15. We end up getting called by the small blind. The big blind decides to go ahead and put in the call as well, and this brings along the limper in the hijack, so we're going to go 4 ways to a flop. We get the dreaded ace-high flop that no one wants to see when they have pocket kings. Ace, 10, queen, rainbow. All 3 players check, and I think we could be betting here with a fairly high frequency, but in a multi-way pot, I decide to check back. We see the 8 of hearts on the turn. So that brings in the gut shot straight for hands like Jack 9, which, let's face it, players at 1-3 are certainly capable of calling out of position with a hand like Jack 9 offsuit or Jack 9 suited. However, when all the players check to me for a second time, I feel like we rate to have the best hand here. I think we can get value from their Queen X holdings. A hand like Queen Jack that has a pair and a draw to the straight would certainly put in a call here. Also, when we get checked to twice, I think it's pretty unlikely that any of our opponents are holding an ace, unless it's a weak ace that they are afraid to bet, like ace 9, ace 7, etc. So all that is to say, I think we can bet on this turn card for thin value, but as played, we end up checking. After checking the turn, we see the Queen of Hearts peel off on the river. It's one of the worst cards that I think we could see here. Now all the Queen X hands that we were beating on the turn have us beat here on the river. All 3 players check it over to me, and I decide to just turn my kings face up here and get to showdown. They all quickly send their cards into the muck, and we end up winning this small pot to get the night started. Just a couple of hands go by, and we get pocket kings again. This time we are in the small blind, and the $6 under the gun straddle is on. We get 1 call in middle position. I raise it up to 20. Big blind gets out of the way, and it's back over to the straddle, who is now tanking about his pre-flop decision. Is he going to be putting in the call? Is he going to be putting in a raise? He decides on the latter option. He makes it 60 to go from the under the gun straddle. When he does this, I think he's going to have a lot of hands like pocket pairs that he doesn't want to fold, some ace-high hands that he doesn't want to fold, and he thinks we are full of it, raising from the small blind. We're going to be putting in the 4-bet here because we've got the second best starting hand in No Limit Texas Hold'em. Question is, how much do we want to raise? I look at his stack, and from my position, it looks like he's got about $250, $300 remaining. So I decide to go ahead and just jam it all in here. If he wants to see a flop, he's going to have to go ahead and call it all off. Unfortunately, I made a big blunder. He's got a lot more than what I had thought he had. There are additional chips to the left of those 2 red stacks that you see there. So he started the hand with a full $400 stack. So essentially I'm ripping it in here for about 150 big blinds, which is a pretty big 4-bet pre-flop. This puts our opponent well into the tank here. He is muttering to himself about hands like ace high, pocket jacks. I can't really quite hear what he's saying, but I feel like the longer he tanks, the more likely it is that we are ahead. So I'm now praying for a call. I think he's got the aforementioned ace high hands that we thought he had earlier, a hand like ace jack suited. He decides to flick it in, so we are going to go to a flop with $810 in the middle. We see 7, 7, 10, queen of hearts, jack of hearts. Hopefully he doesn't have queens or jacks, otherwise we are dead. But I turn over my kings. He sheepishly says, "You are good. I just have ace high." And we had the spot on read that he was putting us on a weaker holding, and he wanted to gamble with his ace X of whatever he had. He didn't turn over his card, so I don't know exactly what he was holding. We end up taking down an $810 pot, second hand of the night. Both hands so far have been pocket kings. Both times we have won with our pocket kings. This time we end up winning big. $810 pot. Great way to get things going here on this night.
That's what he said, yeah.
First, we'd like to thank everyone for playing at Resort Road. We truly appreciate it. Right now, you guys are playing a $25,000 stack each.
We continue to pick up premiums. We have ace king offsuit in the hijack. The $6 straddle is on again. This time it's on the button. I make it 20 to go. The straddler gets out of the way. The small blind gets out of the way, and it's back over to the big blind. The big blind decides $20 is a pretty good price to see a flop, so they go ahead and flick in the call, and we're going to end up going heads up here to a flop. Flop comes down king, queen, 8 rainbow, giving us top pair, top kicker. So when the big blind checks, I'm going to be c-betting this with a very high frequency, and that's what I decide to do. I flick in a $25 continuation bet. Unfortunately, the big blind decides that this is not a good price to continue with their hand, so they let their cards go pretty quick, and we take down a small pot here with Big Slick. All right, we've got pocket fours in the cutoff. Our buddy Rob has joined the game now, so he's in the big blind. I raise this up to 12 to go. The straddle is not on in this hand, so I'm making it a little bit smaller pre-flop. Small blind decides to call, and Rob decides to put in the call as well. So both big blind and small blind are coming along to a flop of ace, 6, 5 with 2 spades. They both check it over to me, and I decide to go ahead and check back here. We see the 8 of diamonds giving us a gut shot to go along with our pair. Now the small blind decides to lead out for 25 here. Rob thinks about it for a while and decides to go ahead and put in the $25 call. I think with our gut shot and with our pair, we can profitably call here as well. I think we can hit a 4 on the river, we can hit a 7 on the river and be good a lot of the time. So I put in the $25 call, and we go 3 ways to a river, which does give us a set, but unfortunately it's the 4 of spades, which is not the best card in the deck. We see a check from the small blind, and now Rob decides to go ahead and take over the betting action here. He makes it $40 to go here on this river. This puts me into the tank. I think we're getting a really good price to call, about 2.5 to 1. We don't have to be right here too often to make this a profitable call. I think a set is just too strong here. I think he can have some bluffs, so I decide to put in the $40. The small blind puts in the $40 as well, so he gets 2 callers, and he turns over the Queen 7 of spades. So he ends up with a straight and a flush to win this pot. Nice hand, Rob. Moving right along, we've got Queen Jack offsuit in middle position, folds to us. I raise it up, I make it 18 to go. The $6 straddle is on the button, so I'm making it a little bit larger here. The button does fold, but the small blind decides to put the call in, and the big blind decides to go ahead and put the call in here as well. So we're going to end up going 3 ways here to a flop. Flop comes down, giving us top pair with a pretty decent kicker. We see Jack 5-4 with 2 diamonds. Both players check to us. I'm going to be betting here. I want to charge any of the front door flush draws, any worse jacks. So I make it $30 to go here on this flop. The small blind doesn't think too long before deciding to go ahead and call the $30. This brings along the big blind as well. The big blind tanks for a little bit longer, but decides that, hey, if both players are going to call $30, I'm getting a pretty good price to call as well. So they go ahead and they stick in the $30, and we're going to go 3 ways here to a turn card, which is the ace of diamonds. This completes the front door flush, completes some straights as well. So when both players check, I think the right play here is just to go ahead and check back and exercise a little pot control. And that's what we do. We see the 5 of spades on the river. This does pair the board, although I wouldn't expect to see too many full houses here. The small blind now decides to lead out here on this river. They put in a $40 bet, which is basically an all-in for them. It leaves maybe $25 behind. I wouldn't expect to see any bluffs in their range when they do this. So when the big blind decides to go ahead and get out of the way and folds their hand, I think we can comfortably fold here. Although we're getting an insane price to call, I just don't think we'll ever call and be good in this spot. So I decide to just go ahead and let my hand go. All right, in this hand, we've got an under the gun raised $10. Middle position goes ahead and puts in the $10 call. We decide to go ahead and flick in the $10 call here as well. We are in position to both players, and we've got 2/5 of a royal flush, so we're not going anywhere here. And we see a flop that gives us top pair. We see 10-9 deuce with all diamonds on the board. Under the gun player decides the continuation bet. I would expect him to do this here with pretty much all of his holdings. I go ahead and put in the $15 call. So we're going to go heads up here now to a turn, which is the 5 of clubs. Under the gun slows down here and checks. I decide to check back, and we see the 5 of spades on the river. When they check to us a second time, I think we could be betting here on this river. We could be getting called by some pocket pairs like 8s and potentially 7s that don't believe us. I think we could also potentially get looked up by ace high. But as played, I check back and we end up winning this pot. Last hand of the session, we've got pocket 9s under the gun. I'm going to go ahead and raise this up. I make it 12 to go. The straddle is not on in this hand. We get a call from middle position, and the button decides to go ahead and put in the call as well. So we're going to go 3 ways here to a flop, which is often the case in these small stakes, multi-way pots. We see queen, deuce, deuce with 2 clubs. Checks around to the button, and the button decides to go ahead and check here as well. So the 10 of hearts peels off on the turn. I decide to continue to check here. This gives the middle position player some incentive to bet now that I've checked twice. I think he smells a little bit of weakness, so he puts in a bet here. The button decides to fold. I think we can comfortably just call here with our nines, and that's what we do. And we see a river card, which is the ace of diamonds. I decide to check. This time, the middle position player checks back, but they show 10-6 suited. Turn 10 is going to go ahead and take down this pot to end the session. After the session, we decide to go grab a couple of cold beers at the center bar, and I am a klutz and end up knocking the table and spilling some of Rob's beer on the table and on Rob. Pro tip, if you're gonna spill beer, spill someone else's beer and not your own. Anyway, apologies for spilling, Rob, and cheers to a great session. Hopefully there are many more to come in the near future. All right, everybody, so we are getting ready to head home. It's about 11:15 at night, and we just wrapped up the session here at Resorts World. Not a particularly great session, but not a bad one either. We were in the game for 400 and we cashed out for 540. That's a profit of $140. Not particularly happy with the way that I played, though. There was definitely some spots where I feel like I missed some C bets. I think I missed some turn bets and some obvious calls. So, yeah, I think there's some areas that I could certainly focus on for improvement, but you can't argue with a win, or you can't be too upset with a win. So $140, I'll take it, and that's going to wrap up episode 17 of the poker vlog. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for the support. Please hit the like button if you like the vlog. Please hit subscribe, and please do hit the notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. I'm going to see you guys all next time in episode 18. Take care.